What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the latest episode of The Layup.Line and the new episode of the Timeline series. I'm here with a special guest back on the show, Brandon Rahbar. He's an Oklahoma City beat writer, and I'm glad to have him back on the show. Brandon, how have you been?
I've been good, man. Thanks for having me back. I enjoyed the first time and was happy to join again.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, great to have you on the show. We're going to dive right into it to not take up too much of your time. Someone I felt that I haven't talked enough about in this series has been the head coach, Mark Daigneault. I really mark the end of Billy Donovan's tenure with the team as the transition into this true rebuild. So what are your early impressions on Mark and how his plans on coaching the team have been?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to say it, because that last Billy Donovan year was the Chris Paul year, and that was kind of a transition where, they tied for the 4th seed and exceeded expectations. And since Mark Daigneault has taken over, the rebuild started, but I myself, along with fellow media members, along with Thunder fans, have been really impressed with Daigneault. And it's funny because, they were a bottom 5 team last year, and yet you had to be impressed by his coaching, by every player buying in. And for the first half of the season, when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Al Horford were playing, this was a competitive team. They were 16-19 in games that SGA played. And a lot of that had to do with SGA and Al Horford and George Hill, but a lot of that had to do with role players, undrafted guys, second round picks, journeymen, playing better than expected. Everybody kind of played above their heads and kind of had career best seasons outside of Darius Bazley would probably be the one player that you could point to as like, okay, well, maybe he didn't meet expectations, but everybody else exceeded them. So I think that says a lot about a head coach. And then just, talking to him, interviewing him, seeing him in these press conferences, seeing how he is on the sidelines with players, with refs and all those things. The whole package, I've just been impressed with, quite honestly. There seems to be a tangible positive when he's coaching the team. So I think he's the right man for the job.
That's good to hear. Something I'm always curious about when a team shows this much development with their young guys, is there anyone on the development side or an assistant coach behind the scene that doesn't really get any mainstream attention that you hear about a lot internally getting praise?
Man, that's a great question. Mike Miller might be one guy that I would point to. He seems to kind of get, a lot of press, and it's not the Mike Miller that helped beat the Thunder in the 2012 finals with the Heat. It's a different Mike Miller. He's one that I might point to. Honestly, it's funny because with the past Thunder teams, of course, Maurice Cheeks got, a bunch of publicity. Mark Bryant, he was a great centers and bigs coach. Steven Adams, Kendrick Perkins, love that guy. But there's nobody right now, and maybe it's just kind of it makes sense because this is a rebuild that Daigneault has kind of taken charge and is getting most of the credit right now for player development and things like that. That is a great question. There hasn't been a lot of buzz. I mean, maybe Dave Bliss, Mike Wilkes. I mean, there's some good guys, but nobody is really standing out as like a guy that's getting a lot of, buzz amongst Thunder fans or media. It's pretty much all been Mark Daigneault.
Okay. I ask that just because when a team has this kind of a development track, you start to see their staff get poached. So, I just wanted to, get into the names of who we could potentially see leaving this staff if the development really does, kind of that trajectory does keep in line.
No, you're exactly right. And the Thunder have a history of being poached, assistant coaches being poached. So you're absolutely right about that.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to talk about with this upcoming season is just how we're going to define success for the Oklahoma City Thunder. As a rebuilding team, a lot of the time your year comes down to what the lottery results look like. But I want to see what you have in mind. Is it really just going to be all about the lottery results, or are we going to care more about the development of the young guys, the Pokus, Tio, what Josh Giddey's rookie year looks like?
I think it's 50-50. I think that they truly obviously want a top 5 pick, preferably a top 3 pick in this upcoming draft. It's another loaded draft. Fortunately for the Thunder, the lottery didn't go their way in 2021, but they have another chance in 2022 with another draft that's maybe just as stacked as the one that we just had, if not more. And there's some bigs, some centers, some power forwards in this draft at the top, which is exactly what the Thunder need. And I think that's why they purposely avoided a center in this year's draft. A lot of people point to, trading away Alperen Sengun or not getting Garuba or Kai Jones, one of those guys. I think the Thunder's eyes have been on the 2022 draft once they couldn't get Evan Mobley as far as the center goes. But that said, as important as that is, this is a big year for development. Sam Presti said in his media presser that he considers this a baseline year. Basically, what he meant was they don't have any vets like Horford or Hill or Kemba Walker around now to take minutes away from young guys. The only one is Derek Favors, and I imagine he'll kind of play limited minutes, maybe rest on back-to-backs, might be flipped at the deadline, that type of thing. So they want to play the young guys a lot of minutes. They want to see what each one of these young guys have and how they're developing, and basically see which ones are keepers going forward, which ones are worth investing, the future into and things like that, and which ones will be flipped, for other pieces or be a part of trades, and which ones they want to keep. And then obviously you're keeping Giddy and Dort and those kind of guys, but their development is huge. Does Dort's offensive game expand? Is that 3-point shot for real? How good does Josh Giddy look? I mean, he's second youngest player in the NBA this year, and preseason looked fantastic. This is a big year for the Thunder's development. Obviously, SGA, does he take that next step to become an all-star? How does Bazley look? Poku? They've got so many young guys, and a lot's invested in these young guys as far as the future goes. They want to see which one of these guys, there's different levels here. For Shea, it's like becoming an all-star. For Dort, it's like taking that next step to, possible stardom or all defensive team. For Poku, it's like seeing more flashes of that talent and seeing that he could possibly be, a star type player down the future, or maybe not. Maybe he doesn't. I mean, with Poku, it's a whole experience. And then very, very big year for Giddy and Trey Mann and Jeremiah Robinson Earl to see what they have.
Okay. One thing I've been really wondering about this season is the starting lineup. I don't know if, the coach, Mark Daigneault, has revealed what the starting lineup is going to be. I think I saw a quote about the starting center still being, up for grabs. So what would your guess on the starting 5 be?
Great question. A lot of people have been wondering that. I predicted before the preseason started that it was going to be SGA, Dort, Giddy, Bazley, and Favors, and I'm sticking with that. If you look at the preseason lineups, the starters have pretty much been SGA, Dort, Giddy, and Bazley. That's pretty much locked in. That center position seems to be kind of fluid, seems to be kind of transitioning, but because Roby started the first preseason game, but Favors didn't play, and then once Favors was healthy and ready to play, he started. Daigneault has said that could be, a revolving door as far as starters go for the center spot, but I think ultimately they'll land on Derek Favors. I think that'll be the starting 5: SGA, Dort, Giddy, Bazley, and Favors.
Okay. And something that I think fans really want to know, does Poku become a starter by the end of the year?
Yeah, everybody's high on Poku. I'm excited about Poku, possibly. Even Daigneault said that they want to run the bench through Poku, and he's going to be kind of the 6th man. And I think that he said that because he knows the expectation and maybe even the desire from fans is for Poku to start. But I think they would kind of want to see what they have in Bazley. He's the incumbent starter. This is his 3rd year. A lot of people are calling it a make or break year for Darius Bazley. So I think they want to give him that chance at least. And, if he performs well, he'll keep it. If not, maybe we see Poku transitioning into the starting position. I don't think he's a 5, and I don't think he'll take over the 3 spot from Giddy as far as a starter. So you're basically looking at Bazley versus Poku for the starting 4 position, I think.
And that's going to be interesting to see how it goes because I also think it's going to be a make or break year for Bazley. What do you think of his development track? I know last year was really kind of a down season for him, but I've always been high on him. And, since those flashes he had in the bubble, I've kind of had him on a higher tier than where Poku is. So do you think he sticks as a starter?
Bazley is probably the biggest question mark as far as what's going to happen with him, for all the reasons that you stated. I think that the team wants him to perform well and has given him every chance to perform well. And he has such an interesting skill set for his size and height. And he's still really young. That's what a lot of people forget. He's still really young, but he has shown flashes. And he does a lot of things well. He rebounds well. He's a versatile defender. And he finishes at the basket fairly well. It's just his outside shooting that's been an issue. And he takes so many 3-point shots and doesn't convert on them. That said, I literally just got off the media call with Mark Daigneault, and Darius Bazley was on this call as well, right before I got on your podcast. And Daigneault actually talked about Bazley's development and how it was non-linear development, how he's a great example of that, how he's had ups and downs, but he feels like Bazley is now the best fully formed version of himself, that he's kind of taken some lumps, and what he's seen from him this training camp and preseason, he kind of thinks he's the best he's been. So of course that could be, a coach hyping up and giving positive vibes to his player. But Daigneault seems to be a pretty honest and tell it how it is guy. Now, he's not going to throw a guy under the bus, but I don't think he'd go out of his way, to say all those things. I think that he's seen something from Bazley where he's encouraged by him. And Bazley kind of seems, a more confident version of himself this preseason, both in the media settings like he was in his rookie year, and on the court more like he was his rookie year. So maybe there's something to it.
Okay. And, it's about time that we get to our rookie, Josh Giddey. My question has always been really, what position does he play? Because a lot of people are calling him a point guard. What do you think?
I'm excited about Josh Giddey. I was excited about Josh Giddey before the draft. I kind of got reamed some by people when I was saying I think that Josh Giddey might be the best prospect outside of the top 5. That was like my initial feeling. Now, some of that changed. I kind of came down on that a little bit. I think I landed him at number 7 or number 8 before the draft, but I was really high on him. So I was good with the Thunder taking him. I know that, a lot of people are like, what, or shocked or disappointed, wanted Bouknight or Kuminga. I get it. Those guys are great. Lots of upside, but I was just like, Josh Giddey, 6'9" point guards with that kind of court vision, playmaking, IQ, feel for the game, playing in a grown man's league and dominating, getting triple doubles like LaMelo Ball did the year before that. I mean, it's so rare. He's such a high upside prospect with a pretty high floor as well. So I've been excited about Josh Giddey, and all the things that I saw in preseason reminded me why I was so high on him and from the very beginning, and why I should have stuck to my guns and kept him at number 6 on my big board. Because everything translated, all the positives that I saw, his playmaking and his feel for the game. He's just he's not a typical, he was 18, he just turned 19, 18 or 19-year-old playing in the NBA. I think that he's legit. Some guys have it, some guys don't, if you believe in the it factor, and I think that Josh Giddey has it.
Yeah, the court vision is absolutely real with him. I think he's such a great fit in that starting lineup because SGA had to create so much of the offense on his own. So to have Giddy now in that starting lineup who can see like every read, and he had so many potential assists during the preseason that, shots just didn't fall. And now that SGA is going to be playing more minutes with him, I think he can really help unlock Bazley. I think it's going to be a great year for Josh Giddey.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you. And I think you're absolutely right. There's so many great passes that he had that didn't end up as assists because his teammates didn't make the shots. But like you said, more minutes with Shea, that helps. More minutes with Lou Dort, that should help. Derek Favors, that should help. I just think that that he's that rare prospect that has such great size and length and IQ and vision and just intangibles plus physical and his attacking the rim. He finishes better at the rim than people give him credit for. So it's not just the passing and his court vision and awareness and all those things. The guy can score too. He really can. Even his outside shot, I think, is a little bit better than people gave him credit for.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed when kind of looking through Giddy's film, and he did that film breakdown with ESPN's Mike Smits, and he spoke about kind of having a mental struggle with his jump shot, and then later in the season, kind of putting it together, and that's when his percentages went up. So that's going to be something to monitor with Giddy out of the gate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really, really is. It's the Thunder's rotations are going to be fascinating to watch because they had to play so many different guys this season. There's so many young guys to give minutes to try to develop. And once you get past the starters, it's really tough to pick, a next five because there's so many guys that got to get minutes. And I think Giddy's going to play with a lot of those guys. I think he's going to play with the bench lot. He's going to start, but I think that he'll run the bench unit too because, you want the ball in SGA and Josh Giddy's hands as much as possible. When they're playing together, you obviously want that, but they can't both, run the offense all the time together. So I think Giddy will play with the reserves a lot as well.
Okay. Someone I think has been under discussed is, also a rookie, Trey Mann. I think there's probably been more said about Jeremiah Robinson Earl than there has been about Trey Mann. What's Mann's role on this team in his rookie year?
I'm completely with you on that. I've actually said that I think that Trey Mann is the most underrated player on the Thunder this year. He was drafted at 18. He's a first round pick, and normally that would get a lot of hype. But because of Giddy and because Jeremiah Robinson Earl played so well in Summer League, Trey Mann really has kind of gone under the radar. He didn't play those last couple Summer League games because of personal reasons. And then when he played, his shots weren't falling. The thing with Trey Mann is he is an elite shot creator. He creates space. He can create his own shot. His floater, his three-point shot, his step back, all like best in this rookie class. Will that translate to the NBA is the question. I think it will. When you watch him play in the NBA preseason games against NBA competition, he was still getting all the shots he wanted. He was creating space. He was creating shots. They just weren't falling. But I have no worry about his shooting. He proved it at Florida to be one of the best shooters in this class. And you don't just forget how to shoot even at the NBA level. And he's got such incredible range. He was already taking a lot of NBA three-pointers when he was in college. So it's not like he doesn't have the range. Even in his his pro day, he was taking shots from like the logo, and you don't see rookies on their pro days take shots from the logo because it can look bad if you miss them, but he was taking them and hitting them. I think Trey Mann's going to be a good player. It may take a while. He's a rookie. He's going to take his lumps. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be nights where he scores 15 and he's really hot. There's going to be nights where he scores 2 points and he's 1 for 8. But I think overall, when you look at his whole body of this first season, I think it's going to be a positive, and I think he's a positive moving forward. Pretty high on Trey Mann as well.
Yeah, and where I think this roster is going to be a good fit for Trey Mann is that I kind of think he's a two guard. I haven't gotten deep into the film from, when he was in college, but I think he's more of a two. And since SGA and Giddy could be the point guard, that works just fine. Another guard that I want to talk about on this team is Taiyo Maladon, because, there's kind of a crunch in the guard rotation here. Where does he fit? What does he do on this team?
Yeah, no, Taiyo is such an interesting question because right now he's the backup point guard, even though you got Josh Giddy, who probably run the bench, like we said, at some points. And there's so many. He's basically a combo guard, Taiyo. They talked about a lot last season, his rookie season, that he can play the one or the two. And he did that. But then you got Ty Jerome, who's a 1 or a 2. Then you got Trey Mann, who's a 1 or a 2. Like you said, I agree. Trey Mann is more of a 2, and I think that's a role he'll play. And I think Taiyo will be the 1. But you got to get Ty Jerome minutes too. And Kenrich Williams has got to get minutes off the bench, and he's a shooting guard / small forward. So and then you got Poco, who's basically a 3-4. There's so many of these guys you got to get minutes to. So you look at a guy like Taiyo, and I think that he will be the backup point guard. I just don't know how many minutes he gets this season compared to last season. Last season, he led the Thunder in minutes. Now, most of that had to do with injuries and shutting guys down. But because Trey Mann, you got to develop him and give him a lot of minutes. You want Giddy to run the show too with the bench. Ty Jerome, I'm not sure yet what Maladon's minutes are going to be, but I do think he's gonna be the backup point guard, and I'll say he plays like 16 to 18 minutes a night.
Okay. Well, who are we most likely to see get sent down to the G League out of this bunch of guards? Because just to get minutes, I'm imagining that somebody's going to have to spend some time in the G League to get their reps there.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't think they'll do it with Trey Mann because they invested a first round pick in him. And when you're rebuilding and you think that highly of a guy, you want to get him as many, real NBA minutes as possible. I don't think they'll do it with Taiyo because, he played so much in the NBA last season. And then Ty Jerome, it's going to be his 3rd year, even though his first year was basically kind of a punt year. He didn't play that much. I think that they're just going to – some nights they'll play like 12 guys instead of 9 or 10. I think that maybe some nights is like Taiyo gets a bunch of minutes nights, and then maybe he rests the next night to give Ty Jerome or Trey Mann some minutes. Because the only one I know for sure will probably play in the G League for the most part will be V. Creche. I think that, he's a prime candidate for the G League. Who else would I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl, I know he's not a guard, but I think that he will play a lot of NBA minutes because he's one of the only bigs on this team. So I think he's pretty much going to play in the NBA the whole time. I think Aaron Wiggins, he's a guard / small forward. He'll get a lot of G League minutes, I think, although I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he gets a real NBA contract from the Thunder, just like they did with Lou Dort and Moses Brown.
Yeah, that was actually the next thing I was going to get to. The streak of the Thunder converting two-way contracts. There was Lou Dort, followed by Moses Brown. The two ways this year are Aaron Wiggins and I believe it's Paul Watson Jr., correct?
Right.
Okay, yep. Yeah. So who do you think is more likely to be converted, if at all, this year?
I do think it'll be Aaron Wiggins. Paul Watson Jr. is fun because he's a sniper. I mean, the dude can shoot the 3 ball so well. He's just a great shooter, and he's a good guy to have on that 2-way contract just because it gives you options. But given their ages and the draft capital, I think, and just seeing how he performed in the preseason and summer league, I mean, he looks, kind of NBA ready. I would say Aaron Wiggins for sure. I would be surprised if Aaron Wiggins doesn't end up with a real NBA contract by the end of the season. I would be shocked.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll be on the lookout for that. I want to finish up on this by, pushing that propaganda, SGA for the All-Star game, getting it ready. Giddy already said that he thinks the SGA is going to be an All-Star. So I just want to ask you, what's your prediction on Shai's line this year?
I think he's going to be right around 25 points. I'll say a little bit over 25 points, so he improves a little bit there. I'll say the rebounds will be around 5-ish. I think he gets about 5 rebounds per game. They're not going to have a true center. Even if Derek Favors is playing, he's 6'9". He's more of a power forward. If Roby or Jeremiah Robinson Earl, those are all basically power forwards. Shai will get some rebounds. And then I think his assists, I'll give him like 6.5 assists per game. So we'll say like 25.5. and 6.5. Those are all-star numbers. He should be a slam dunk all-star. Talent-wise, performance-wise, stat-wise, he was an all-star last season. I think he improves even more this season. The only problem is the Thunder are still going to be a bad team. They're not going to win many games. They're not going to be on national TV. So he won't have the narrative. He won't have the team wins. He's in a stacked Western Conference. So he probably doesn't get it. But I think it'll be a Devin Booker case where more and more people are starting to notice how good he is, even though he's on a bad team. And so his time will come. Devin Booker probably deserved to make the All-Star game before he did. And I think that's going to be SGA for a couple of years, and then he'll eventually make it. But he is no doubt an all-star level player and should be an all-star.
Yeah, I am among the people that believes he should have made it last year. The Western Conference is tough to make it as a guard. When he didn't crack the initial list, it was tough reaction. I thought he got snubbed, but then when they put in Mike Conley as the injury replacement instead of him, I definitely thought he got snubbed.
Yes, absolutely. Here's the thing. I 100% was I was on the radio. I was talking about it on Twitter, on blogs, anybody that would let me talk about it. The Mike Conley thing, I get it. I respect Mike Conley. He's been around forever, never made the all-star team. It was a feel-good thing, but it was an absolute snub to SGA to put Conley in ahead of him. I mean, you look at the numbers, you look at the impact, you look at the play, you look at the talent, you look at everything. SGA deserved to make it over Conley. I mean, Conley was the third best player on the best team in the West last season, and so that's why he made it. And really, it was close between him and Jordan Clarkson. They were kind of 3A and 3B. SGA deserved it over him, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, we'll get to see him in the All-Star game. I do want to thank you for your time because this has been great. Hopefully we can get you to come back on the show sometime around the All-Star break and talk about how Shai's All-Star season has been going.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I hope so. That'd be great. Let me know. I'm down anytime, man. Keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, absolutely, man. Have a good one.
But that's all I have for this one. I want to thank Brandon once again for coming on the show, and thank you for tuning in and making it to the end of this video. If you haven't seen the other videos in this series, I have a playlist that you can check out. You can also find me on a few social media platforms. You can definitely subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when new videos come out. Thank you again for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.